Greetings, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, ladies. I hope that this video finds you and your family safe. I hope that you're warm and safe out of this cold Arctic air because baby, it is cold outside. Today's video is going to be about I Almost Lost My Life Part 2. If this is something that you're interested in, stay tuned. Now let's get started. Hi ladies, welcome to the Classy Lady Squad. My name is Andrea and I am the host. The Classy Lady Squad is a community where women impact women through our evaluated experiences. We talk about health, relationships, and business. We also talk about current events that's going on in the world. Today's video is part 2 of I Almost Lost My Life. Stop this video if you have not watched part 1 of I Almost Lost My Life. Go watch that so it will bring you up to part 2. In part 1, I mentioned that I had procedures done to my liver, in which I did. But my liver is healthy. It's nothing wrong with my liver. It was the bile duct, and I mentioned in part 1 about how that went. Also, I have a video out called Health and Wellness. I touch on that also to give you a little bit more clarity on what happened with the bile duct. As I'm telling my story, I will probably pause here and there just to get more precise information so that you can have clarity on what happened. Well, this all started February 2021. I woke up 7 a.m., 7:30 in the morning in excruciating pain. Now, I thought it was one of those pains that, I must have ate something late and you get this burning in your stomach. And, but it wasn't that. It wasn't that. I got up to use the restroom, couldn't use the restroom, and the pain just started getting worse. It was like muscle twisting in my back and it just won't stop twisting. I yelled for my son to come in the restroom and rub my back. And at the moment, my husband wasn't there. He was out in the field doing business in our business. And by the time he got home, I was in tears. I was screaming. I didn't know what else to do. So he rushed me to the emergency room. I must have been in the emergency room, 8 to 10 hours of being in pain, yelling for help. They weren't doing anything, so I thought. But they were trying to find out after taking x-rays and CT scan what they can find. Well, one doctor came in and said, and she had an x-ray with her, she said, in this area, it shows that you had a kidney stone that passed. So, okay, the kidney stone passed, but I'm still in excruciating pain. So what is that about? So at that point, the hospital must have called GI specialists of Georgia. Well, I had about 5 GI specialists show up all at one time, and I'm still crying and yelling for help. So they decided to admit me in the hospital to manage pain. Went into the hospital and I am so sorry. I apologize. I thought I heard gunshots, but it was the neighbors out with they're having a barbecue in this Arctic weather, and they're putting firecrackers inside of a metal container. I apologize. Okay, back to the story. So I'm in the hospital, and the doctor just told me that, and showed me on the x-ray that she saw where a kidney stone had passed through a certain area, but I was still in pain. And all of these GI specialists of Georgia started showing up in the emergency room in my bay. And I'm yelling and screaming, help me, somebody do something. They're all looking at each other. They're trying to ask me questions. I couldn't answer their questions anymore. So they gave me a COVID test and said they're going to be admitting me in the hospital. And the doctor said we're going to, do pain management. So I was admitted into the hospital, and the next day they told me I had food poisoning. So was it the kidney stone or is it food poisoning? So they're giving me medication. The doctor comes and visit, and I'm still in pain. I started, what is going on? First you tell me it's kidney stone, then you tell me it's food poisoning. So he said, Miss Kinloch, we're doing everything we can to help you get comfortable. We're going to do some more blood work. And I said, okay. The next day comes the same doctor comes back in and says, you have an infection. So now I have a kidney stone that passed, food poisoning, and now an infection. So he puts me on antibiotic, and on the 5th day sends me home with the antibiotic, but I'm still in pain. Now, after resting at home for a while, I think it was a couple of weeks, the pain did get better. But during that time, I called my GI specialist to make an appointment so that she can look at my x-rays that I had in the hospital to see if she could see anything. And I did let her know about what all they did at the hospital, which didn't seem to help in any way. So she sends me to get an endoscopy done. That is where they put a tube down your nose, down into the area so that they can see exactly what's going on in there. Well, those results came back. I went back to my GI specialist, and she tells me that my bile duct was double the size of a normal bile duct. And she wanted me to go to a surgeon. They sent me to a surgeon, and I got to the appointment, and the surgeon says that, okay, this is not cancer, so we don't have to worry about that. But we will have to do surgery because this could turn into something else. So he says that he suggests doing robotic surgery to remove the bile duct and my gallbladder. We had that scheduled. I went into the hospital. He did tell me I would stay in for about 5 days. And so he did the surgery, and everything was great after that. No pain. Went home, no pain. But I'm always one to follow up. And I called my primary doctor to get blood work done just to check on my levels, and went and had that appointment. The next day, my primary doctor calls and said that your liver enzymes are high. I'm like, oh Lord, what? So now, remind you, I am not one that ever got sick. So when this came along, mentally, I didn't know how to manage myself. So I was jumpy, I was, anxiety all over the place. And, but anyway, so I called the GI specialist and she sent me to have an MRI done. So the MRI revealed that I had scarring from the surgery. And the scarring was narrowing the ducts in my liver. That way the bile wasn't flowing properly. So they suggested for me to go back to my surgeon, and my surgeon referred me over to another specialist, which is a cardiovascular vein surgeon, where he performs vein procedures. So I qualified for him going in and putting a stent in to get past the scarring to open the narrowing of the duct in my liver. Okay, so that procedure was scheduled. That was beginning of February 2022, this year. He did the procedure, and after the procedure, he told me that he didn't get past the scar. So I would have to come back in. Now, mind you, the stent is in, but he didn't get past the scar. And I had a tube hanging out of my side. And so the doctor told me that, I would probably, be able to go back to work 24, 48 hours with this happening to me. And so the pain, it was day 3 and the pain did not go. Fast forward to the following week, I am still in pain. So I'm calling the doctor offices. I couldn't get in touch with the doctor. The nurses were saying this is normal. After telling me that I would be able to go back to work the next day. So I'm starting to get anxiety again. And so 3 days later, I started getting a scent. It was a foul scent. And I know with an infection, that's normally what you get with an infection after surgery. So my family took me to the emergency room, and they did find out that I had an infection, but they didn't know exactly what was going on. So they did all kinds of tests, MRI, x-rays, blood work. Now this was on a Sunday. On the 3rd day that I was there, they did a CT scan and an x-ray. And I started getting short of breath. So they gave me, now not telling me why they're doing this. And at this point, I'm terrified. So I'm not thinking to ask questions. I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and have the procedure done. So they gave me a drainage system to open up or to cause infection to drain. Well, come to find out, my surgeon had called another surgeon that was on duty in the hospital. Now, I didn't know what was going on until this surgeon came into my room, in which I was almost at ICU at this point because they were switching me from levels of seriousness, urgency, not knowing that I was one step away from being in the ICU. Well, this surgeon came in and said and showed my family and I that I had an infection in my lungs. And I told the surgeon, I said, well, I just came out of surgery and they said everything was fine. They put a drainage in there. He said, ma'am, if I don't do surgery on you, the only way that I can treat this is to do surgery on you. And he shows us that it was like a honeycomb effect. There was a ball of infection inside my right lung where it was flipping and flipping infection on the walls of my lung, and it was filling as it was flipping. So without a doubt, I told the doctor, come on, let's do this. Yes, let's get this done. So he did surgery, and it was a trying time. And after surgery, I asked the doctor, what happened? Well, what happened was the tube and the stent that was put into my liver against the scarring drained bile back down the stent and the tube into my lungs. So that trauma happened. I was like really out of it for a few days. Now, but one day I do remember there must have been 7, 8 doctors surrounding my bed. Now this was daytime, but the room turned black. And I remember panting, like I was having trouble breathing, and I was hooked up to all kind of wires. I wished I had got somebody to take pictures, but at that point, you're in trauma. You're not thinking, oh, take a picture of this. But I wish that I could have shown you guys what that had looked like at that point. But I was terrified, and I came out of it, thank God. And not trying to be religious, but I do believe that I believe in God. And, whatever your spiritual nature is, then I respect that. But at this point, third day, I am feeling great. I've come back to myself, got up, started walking around. But I wanted to tell you that story because I had just started my YouTube channel and getting in the groove of things. When you're in front of a camera, you're talking to a camera, you're nervous. And at first, and I just got used to being in front of the camera. And then here I am disappearing for months. But that's what was going on with me. I literally almost lost my life. The doctor said that it was touch and go during those days. I spent 10 days in the hospital, and I came home, and the tubing process lasted 7 months of tube in my side, which actually ended up didn't work. And so I had this past September, the tubes came out, but then I had pain again. I went to the emergency room, they did the x-rays, I had to stay in the hospital again, and they had to put the tube back in order for the ducts to stay open. The particular ducts that the tubes were in, I guess because of the scarring, it wasn't properly processing well. So I went back to my normal surgeon, and he says that there's a duct large enough for him to go back and do manual surgery. Okay, October 28th, I had manual surgery, where you've probably seen some of my videos where I talk about the doctor going in and disconnecting what he had done the year before, cutting off a piece of my lower intestine so that he can reattach the lower intestine to the bile that was wide open. Thank God I am 8 weeks post-surgery, and everything is well. Haven't had any pain. I am just at the point now that I can start exercising, doing my walking, taking it slow. But I'm so excited to be back with you guys. You just don't know. I really thought about it during the process, and I'm like, I wasn't coming back, but I'm like, no, I have to tell my story. I have a job that I have to do with you ladies, and I'm back. Now, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that it impacts you in such a powerful way. If you really like this video, consider subscribing to the channel, giving this video a thumbs up, and sharing with your girls. Now, know who you are, stay in your truth, and own it. Until the next time, until the next video, peace for now.